Okay, so hi everyone, welcome to the How to Gain Clients Using the Clarity Cards, which is a system I've developed. Probably I've condensed about 15 years of coaching experience into these cards, and I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to produce them. I'm just going to give you share my screen to start with so you can see what I'm talking about. And okay, so they are the clarity cards, and the way they started out was, before they were this, it was a spreadsheet. Now I got to develop this because I was having not a problem as such, but I wanted an easier way of getting work. And I was going into a client, and I do one-to-one coaching and team coaching, and I was going in to see the general manager of a hotel, and he was having problems with his staff, but he wasn't articulating, or I wasn't understanding exactly what he needed. So as a way of finding out a little bit more and being prepared for this meeting, I devised this spreadsheet, and at the time I didn't know what to call it, so I just called it the Matrix, because felt a bit sort of geeky doing a spreadsheet to take into a client. But anyway, I went in and had a conversation with this general manager, and I think one of the reasons I felt unsure was because he was French and had a very strong French accent, and I wanted to be clear that I understood him. So for me, this is all about being clear about what he wanted for his staff. So I looked at all the workshops. So where you see 1 to 4, I actually had 9 different types of workshops that I ran at the time. I still do. But these are also modules. So they're kind of types of coaching that I would put together for a workshop. And some of these things are techniques I use for individual clients as well. So what I did was I looked at all the benefits of what I did, because I thought, well, what I need to know is how does he want to benefit from what I do as a way of selling my services. So I looked at all the feedback I'd got from previous clients and people that attended my workshops, and I started to see patterns. So I looked at the evaluation forms that I did after workshops, and I started to see patterns of words that people said in the feedback that related to certain types of workshops. So I thought, well, I'll write these words down, and then if this chap in the meeting says any of these words, I've kind of got a better understanding. So I go in to see this guy, and we start the conversation, and I'm coaching him to find out what he wants. And then he says a couple of these key words. So I get my highlighter pen out, and I quickly highlight these words. And he spots what I'm doing, and he just grabs the piece of paper off me and the highlighter pen. I said, oh, I see what you're doing, and he starts highlighting the words himself. And then when he'd finished, he said, right, so that's the workshop I want you to run for my team. Without even asking me what I'd be doing or what the approach would do or what kind of coaching techniques I would that wasn't important to him. What was important was how he was going to benefit from his team. So I did go in and do that workshop, got really good feedback, so that worked well. I thought, well, I might use this tool again. So about a month later, I was sat next to an ops director at a networking seminar, and she started to talk about problems with her team. She'd got 2 teams of people and they weren't really engaging with each other, and she said, well, is that the kind of thing you help people do? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll come in and have a chat. So I went in to see her and the MD, again took this matrix, and I was a bit more upfront this time. So I said, look, after the initial conversation, obviously I didn't kind of just go straight in with this. I just said, well, I've got this method, see what you think. And she just took it off. I didn't even have to say what to do with it. She said, oh yeah, I see. I just highlight the words. Well, this is how I want my team to behave and what I'd like my team to be doing. And as soon as she'd done it, she said, yeah, I want you to run these 2 workshops. And it was just so easy. I was like, oh, no proposal writing, and no, I'll come, can I go away? You think about it, and well, I'm not sure, I need to know more information. Nothing like that. It was just straight in. So I ran those 2 workshops, really good feedback from it again. I thought, well, I'm going to keep using this. It's brilliant. I got 2 big pieces of work very easily and very quickly as well. So it was about a month or so later, I went along to a coaching retreat. It was a coaching event where I meet other coaches in London. And we were asked to share techniques that had helped us in our business, not necessarily a coaching technique, because I didn't know at the time that this would turn into a coaching technique as well as a kind of a sales tool. So I said, well, I'll share my matrix. So as soon as I told people how it worked, they all wanted a piece of it. It's like, well, can you do this for us? You know, if we give you our keywords, can you turn this into a matrix for us? And I said, well, it's very tailored to what I do. Obviously, I run these workshops. You do something different. But I'm willing to work with, you know, if any of you want to work with me on this, we can see if I can make it generic. So that's how we did it. What we found was the 9 areas. So you can see on here, there's 4 areas. There was 9 areas, and they relate to different aspects of coaching. What I found now is, after coaches have been trained on this technique, all coaches have these, or whether it's training people or people in HR, so it could be training or coaching. So any personal development covers these 9 areas. So that was just kind of the way it evolved, really. So we came up with a name as well. We brainstormed the name, and somebody came up with clarity, and I thought, well, that fits it perfectly, because it's not just about clarity for the coach knowing what the client wants, but it's the client gaining clarity of what they actually need to be able to tell the coach that. So it's a kind of a two-way thing. So from that, the clarity cards were born, and people said at the time, well, you know, how are you going to put this, change this spreadsheet, if you like, into something, into a tool? Oh, hi Sarah, hiya, welcome.
Sorry guys,
that's right. Well, we've not done introductions yet. I thought, well, I'd go ahead and explain the cards. Hazel's on the line, and Kim. Hazel's seen the cards before, but for Kim this is the first time, so
okay,
I'll just carry on with the bit of the backstory, and then we'll do intros.
Sure.
Hello, by the way. So we decided, well, rather than it be an online or an app thing, you know, let's just do something that's quite simple to use, you know, a card system. People like getting control of the cards. So the idea of the cards is, when you're in a situation where you're going in to either get the work or you're coaching somebody, is to give them some of the cards. As you can see, there's quite a few cards now. Hang on, can you see that? Let me just stop. I think I might have to stop sharing for a while so you can see this. Yeah, so there's quite a few cards there, as you can see, 115, and all those words are now, there's a word each on each card. So you've got balance, you've got behaviours. So it probably is better if you see it on the screen rather than me trying to show you there. So there's now 115 cards, and they've all got one of these words. And working with these other couple of coaches, we added about another 10, 20 words, but they're all words that are relevant to all coaches.
If we've had a set from you, Karen, and we're a few words behind, would you top up our sets? Because I think, when did I get mine? That would have been, gosh, last year sometime, early.
Yeah, it was about September time.
September time, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So when you say top up?
Top up in the sense that if there are any new words in there from the words I've got that you've added, I think it might.
Oh no, you've got the original number.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
we've not added any more since then. So since we launched it last June, they've stayed at the same number. And no one's come back to say, oh, it should have this word in it.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, so all the words that we've got in there. I mean, I was trying to narrow it down to 100 because I thought that's a nice round number.
Yeah.
But we couldn't decide then which 15 to take out. And although we've got some words like, we've got action plan, we've got plan, and we've got planning, they might all be slightly similar, but they actually have quite a different meaning to me.
Yeah.
So I kept them in, and I thought, well, for the sake of 15 extra words, we've got 115.
Yeah.
As you know, Sarah, you don't need to use a whole pack, do you?
No.
So I'll
No,
explain
exactly.
how that works in a minute.
Yeah.
So just to be clear on, well, should we do the introductions next? That's probably, before I go into delving in a bit further. So Hazel, do you want to just introduce yourself, say what your kind of type of coaching that you're doing?
I'm Hazel Gibson, learning and development consultant. So coaching is probably only about 25% of what I actually do. I do a lot of delivering group workshops, but I just thought actually that the Clarity cards, I had a quick look at them, but I just thought they'd actually be a really useful tool that I could utilise to, help grow my business really.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thanks, Hazel.
Thank you.
Kim, do you want to unmute? Kim's actually in a noisy area, Sarah, so just so it's not that she's shy.
Oh God, no, I'm not. But I have stepped outside now.
Okay.
I was like, don't move any of my stuff, but I need to go outside, otherwise these people are going to be deaf after I talk. So it is very nice to meet you, and thank you for including me, Karen.
You're welcome.
So I just got back home from my second module of the Barefoot coaching training. So that is amazing. I don't know. I know you know it, Karen. I don't know if you know it, Hazel and Sarah, but it is truly mind-blowing, life-changing.
Yeah.
So I haven't. Yeah, definitely. So I haven't done too much coaching, calling myself a coach or understanding myself as a coach, really. But I work as a process manager for a consultancy, and that's paying my bills. But I want to branch out and have my own coaching business rather sooner than later. And I just love it. The difference you can make for people by just asking the right questions, that wow, or that oh shit on people's faces is just amazing.
I know.
And it is. And like working with the cards that I have gotten already, they're so powerful. So yeah, I'm super interested in the cards, and I am loving the story so far. So thank you for sharing that with us, Karen.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you for that. And Sarah?
So yes, I'm in the Barefoot Way, and I was barefooted last year. So it's still finishing last April, May time. So I've been doing pro bono coaching. I now have paying clients, growing it organically, because I think based on a good reputation, that's where you will, word of mouth will help spread that. Setting up some workshops, predominantly seeming to be doing business and executive type coaching at the moment, which is, I just love it. Oh my God. Kim, it goes back to you. It's that whole thing when you ask the right question and you watch the sort of, either the cloud or whatever it is, something shifts and changes. It's amazing. And the Clarity cards for me, so I've used them in individual coaching, and I've used them in a group situation, and they just seem to they clarify. I mean, that's why they're called what they're called, because they just clarify either an emphasis of an area where you need to work on, or you can split between where the percentages are and go, actually, that's the one I want to concentrate on now, whatever that area is, and then align the specific coaching tools and the questions around it. So this is a good top up for me, and to pick up on anything that I'm missing or I'm not doing properly.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it sounds like you're doing well with them anyway. So
I do enjoy it. Yeah, they are good. Yeah.
Hazel, just carry on.
No, and I think just visually, in terms of putting the results into and it won't fit for everybody, but the coloured pie chart makes so much difference to how people see things. I mean, it's got to be what floats their boat.
Yeah,
sure. It's not for everyone. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that. Yeah, Hazel, just for your benefit, if you've never heard of Barefoot, it's a training course that provides coaching and a qualification in coaching.
Oh, right, okay.
So I did that back in 2005. So when I met the woman that runs it up in the Midlands, I didn't know what coaching was. And when I got coached, it just kind of blew my brains out completely. It's like, whoa, what is this stuff? So so I was actually working in IT at the time. I didn't plan to become a coach, but went on her course and enjoyed coaching others as much as I liked being coached. So that's why I became a coach at the end. So I got the first chance to set that up myself. Not looked back on it. So right, to explain a bit more about the cards and the kind of the process and what's involved in it. So as I said, the idea was to, when you're talking to somebody, you initiate that conversation to start with, and then you kind of got to decide whether the cards are going to work with this person or not. So I mean, I have gone in straight away to meet somebody who was an HR director, and I just got the cards out straight away, and she loved it. But you've got to kind of get a sense if you feel comfortable using them. And that's why I do a whole day training on it, so that you're using them hands-on, you get a real feel for them, you practice with somebody else, and then you're at the confidence stage. So I thought, well, if I'm confident enough to meet an HR director in a Costa Calf with these cards and just produce them, and she loved them, that was a way to do it. So to explain a bit, I mean, ask me questions as you go along. It's not anything you want cleared up. It's all about clarity. Yeah. So just ask away. So I'm just going to share my screen again. So as you can see on the cards, there are some coloured spots. And these are what relate to the 9 areas that I talked about. So when I was talking about my 9 workshops, these translated to these colours. What I've since found out, because obviously I was after team coaching at the time, but actually they're a really good tool for also individually coaching and getting individual clients as well. So I've just given someone a quick 10-minute demo, given them the diagnosis from the cards, and they've said straight away, yeah, I want to start then. That's obviously a key area for me. I want to start now. They have been that powerful. My record today is 6 minutes. I actually got someone to realise what issue they'd got, and I'll explain that a little bit more. So the nine colours, and as you can see, there's some have got 2, and some have got 1, and some have got 5. The number of colours on each card doesn't mean anything. It's just what the colours are. So you're looking at how many oranges you've got, you're looking at how many purples you've got, you're looking at how many pinks you've got. So the way they work is you'd give somebody a subset of the cards, and it's quite important that you give that person the card so they're holding them, they're in control of them. Feedback that I've got is that people actually like to take charge of it, if you like, it's something in their control. And getting a very focused question is really important. I've just been fed back by someone that they asked a question, and it was too big a question, probably too vague, and somebody just chose nearly all the cards, and that's really difficult then to diagnose it. So ask a question as focused as you can. So it could be a project someone's working on, or an area they want to change, or something they want to achieve by a certain date. It's quite important to get a deadline with it as well. So usually when I'm working with the cards, I will put like a month or up to 3 months as a deadline. So even if you find someone's got a big goal, like it's a 12-month goal, break that down so that you've got what you need in the first 3 months, and then use the cards. So think of what your goal is by the end of the year, but what do you want to achieve in the next 3 months? Break that goal down, and then use the cards. So you're asking a very focused question when you're using the cards, because you don't want all the cards to come back to you. So the idea is they're discarding what isn't necessary for their goal.
And how many cards do you give them?
Well, I usually give them like 30 or 50, so just a subset, maybe 30 to start with, and then another 50. I'd give them at least 30. So just take a part of the pack, give them that pack.
And is that as long as it's well shuffled?
Oh yes, do shuffle them. Yes, because obviously when they're new, they're coming in alphabetical order. So, and obviously when you've used them with a client, then make sure you give them a good shuffle afterwards, because obviously you'll be putting them back in a pack and there'll be all the pinks together and all the reds together. So give them a good shuffle. So when you've got their question, so it could be as simple as, you know, I want to have so many clients by the end of the month, say. You're then asking them what they need less of or more of, because there's negative cards in this as well. So you've got things like frustration and anger and fear. So it could be stuff they want to get rid of as well as want more of. So when they've got their question, you're asking them to look through the cards and to look through them quickly. Don't get them agonizing over each one. You know, I had a client a couple of weeks ago and he was taking them and he was looking at it. I said, right, do it, you know, gut instinct, just look at the word and say straight away whether you want more or less of it or it is not relevant. So, you know, if you're needing more about an action plan and it's not relevant because you've already got an action plan, then you discard it. If you do need that, you keep it. So the ones they keep, you're then having them give them back to you on a table or space in front of you. And the idea is, hopefully you'll get a few like this, but you could end up with a lot like this. So there's a way of getting around that. So first of all, before I go through these scenarios with you, I'm going to just tell you what the colours actually mean. So when you break them down. So when the person's giving you these colours, the colours represent these areas. So there's things like the purple is about awareness and behaviours and motivation. Then you've got things that are around prioritising and goal setting. You've got confidence, feeling accepted, recognised. And these colours represent the same for individual as well as team coaching. So there's different instructions for team coaching. So individual, I've got a list of instructions so that you go away with the cards and you know what the colours represent and you've got a synopsis of what generally that means. The idea then is if purple gets chosen as the main colour, you will know what you use as your coaching technique, whether it's a type of conversation you have or it's an actual technique. So if it was motivation, I use motivational drivers quite a lot from transactional analysis. So if purple comes up a lot, I will probably use something like that. If things like uncertainty comes up, there might be something about a fear or a phobia that you focus on. You've got techniques for that. So it's not about telling you what the technique is, it's telling you about the area, then as a coach or trainer that you would then develop with that person. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a technique, or it could be a model of coaching you use, or just a conversation that uses that as the starting point. And what I found is this is useful as a tool because people know where to start. And once you've pinpointed the main area to start on, it's like, yeah, that is it. That's definitely what's going on. That's what I want to start with. It just makes that progression easier and makes it kind of less vague, you know, because everyone knows coaching, we can help people with coaching, but making it kind of concrete and bring across what we can do quite easily is sometimes quite difficult. That's how I found anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of the individual way of using these and then a couple of team coaching ways. So first of all, this one, which I call my green and red, this was about somebody that was taken on at board level. It's an HR director, but she was feeling a little bit unsure about how she was going forward with the job. Wanted a little bit of help around her thinking. So she picked out these words. So we've got delegation, we've got confidence. She picked out just the words that were relevant to her to get her through the next month. So as you can see, she picked out green. Can you see this? Should I make that a bit bigger? Oh, no, too big. Okay, so we've got some greens here, and we've got 3 reds there, and we've got 2 pinks. Now, it was the reds that I was interested in, because the green, if I go back to that, the green is all about personal and business growth. So usually in an individual session, that quite often comes out as the main colour, because it's on a lot of cards around personal business growth. So when you're looking at that scenario, you're then looking at what the second colour is. So you can feedback straight away that, yeah, one-to-one coaching will help you with this. But the area to kind of start with is this red one. Now, the red one was all about feeling accepted and about her self-worth. And as soon as I fed that back to her, she said, yeah, I don't actually feel like I kind of feel accepted yet. That's what I'm really worried about. And says, well, that's our first starting point. So that really helped to see straight away, because she thought it was actually something else that she was worried about, but it was just about how she felt about her own acceptance, you know, recognizing her own abilities. So from that, you'd know where you start with the confidence, acceptance, values around building her up for that role. So the next scenario is the green and mauve. And this was the one I did in 6 minutes. So she didn't pick a lot of cards, which was useful. So it was a quick diagnosis. Again, she picked out quite a bit of green, but here it's the mauve we're looking at. So she picked 4 of the mauve, and the mauve relates to the values and sense of purpose and decision making. So when I was able to feed that back as a synopsis about, you know, how do your, so her scenario was, I'm working as a freelance person in this organisation, but I'm not feeling very comfortable about it. There's something not quite right there. Just want to explore that. So how do I feel better about this in a month's time? So this is what she chose for that question. And when I fed back that it was about her values, I said, well, you know, looking at your values and looking at their values, how do they line up? Immediately she said, yeah, they don't. And that's where the problem is. She said they haven't got the same values as me, or I don't fit their values. So it gave her a lot to think about. So just from that 6-minute kind of session, she said, yeah, actually, I've realised now what I need to do about this.
Mm-hmm.
So the last individual one I'll show you is this one, because this is what I called the green, red and pink. And obviously this person chose a lot, but it was because there was a lot going on. So it was quite a specific question. So she had done a piece of work for clients. The client hadn't been happy about it. There'd been some disagreement, almost like a falling out about it. But she decided to just walk away from it and leave it. And she wasn't feeling too good about that. So this was like, well, how would you want to feel about this in a month's time? But she picked a lot because there was a lot to it. Now, the idea, of course, for us as coaches or trainers diagnosing it, what that area is to pinpoint, we're not so interested in looking at what the words are. I mean, that's important when you go back and start the coaching session, because what I do is, as you can see here, I've taken a photo with my phone, because you want to know if there's lots of one colour, that you then can go into a bit more detail about, right, you know, tell me what these particular words mean for you. And that's quite a good exercise to do. Yeah. I've done that for homework for people. You know, they come out with a load of oranges, and I've got them to take a photo as well and say, you know, as homework, just write out a line of what each of those words mean to you. And that's quite useful for the next session then. So this is also quite good to use as a review, because you know what they've picked. But as I say, it's not important from the point of diagnosing what the colour is. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of green here, and as she was giving me them back, I was laying them out in order. So I started off with the ones that got 1 spot on. I put all the greens together, and I put all the ones that got 1 purple on, then all the ones that got 1 mauve on, and then you kind of just build it up, adding ones next to it to get a bit of a pattern. But as you can see, I've got loads of greens there, and I've got purple there, quite a few mauves here, a few reds there, quite a few pinks and a few more red, and they were kind of all over the place. But the next slide is exactly the same cards, but just laid out a bit different. So as I said, you don't need to see what the words are for this initial diagnosis, if you like. The idea is to just put all the colours so you can see the colours. So there you can see all the greens together with a couple of ones dotted over here, all the purples and a couple there, all the mauves there, all the pinks there. But as you can see, there's a long line of reds here, and that was the important one. So it went from looking like a lot of green and a mix of mauve and pink and purple to see straight away this is mainly red. And when I fed back to this woman, well, this is about your self-worth being affected, you accepting yourself, this is about basically your self-worth about the issue. She immediately realized, and in fact she got quite upset about it. She said, yeah, this is really eroding my self-confidence because it's eating away at my self-esteem, my beliefs about myself. So I need to stand up for myself and go back to this person and sort it out. And she changed dramatically. Her physiology changed in those few minutes of doing this exercise. Thinking, no, I'm not backing down. This was important. It was kind of getting at her own credibility, her reputation, if you like. So that was quite a powerful session. So that was just to show you how you lay the cards out if you get a lot for the diagnosis. So that was for the individual clients. I'm now going to show you 2 examples of the team coaching and how you can use that. So before we move on to the team coaching, any questions?
No.
No.
Lovely. Okay. So for the team coaching, so this was for a company, and this was the manager who chose these. Now, there's 2 ways of working with this for a team, and I've done both ways now, which is quite nice. So I've actually gone in and spoken to a decision maker, and obviously it's their perspective of what their teams need. And I've gone in and I've worked with teams actually in a workshop. And so you get their take on what they need. Sometimes they don't both tie up. So it was kind of nice to see both sides of this. So for this company, this was the decision maker deciding what his team needed. And it was mostly about behaviours and values. So from that, I was able to put together a package of a workshop that put those 2 things together, those 2 elements, and got good feedback from it. And this was the one where this was the team doing it. So we had 18 people from this organisation, split them into 3 groups, so they all had a pack of cards, and they had the same 50 cards, because what I was looking at was their values. So I took all the negative cards out and the ones that were slightly overlapping, so that they've got 50 to work with. We'd only set 20 minutes for this particular part of the workshop, but actually it overran massively, and it was the one where we got the most feedback on it. So what we could see from this is a lot of purple and a lot of red. So again, this is about behaviours. So this was a workshop on their values and the culture change, but the next step that I could go back to the CEO to prescribe, if you like, was working on the behaviours, and then this feeling of being acceptance and their self-worth. Now, this came from a team of people, and sometimes it's quite useful if you're doing a one-to-one session to actually capture this in a spreadsheet, which is not on my slides, but oh, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So this is the individual. So obviously you take those names out because you keep it confidential. So this is you feeding back to a decision maker. You've had a quick clarity session with these 5 team members. These are the numbers of colours they've picked. So again, you do your diagnosis. You might not have to feed back to the individual. This might just be going back to the decision maker. Right, we've had a clarity card session with Steve, and this is what came out. Sorry, you wouldn't say Steve, obviously. You'd say 5 of the team have done this. And as a team, this is what, that's the right one. Oh yeah, this one. So this is what you'd feed back to the decision maker. So this would be a snapshot of those figures. So these figures would be fed into a spreadsheet. And so this is an add-on tool for the clarity cards. And you'd feed back to the decision maker. Well, this came out as 17%. This came out as 21%.
Karen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's important that the CEO in a team situation, or whoever that leader is that you're feeding back to, knows what the question was?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is it the question that the CEO says, this is the question I'd like you to ask them?
Absolutely.
Because then he's got some context around why those areas are the percentages they are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Yes. So this was one about embedding those values and how they'd work together as a team.
Yeah.
So this was, the behaviours of the team, what they value, and then recognising each other.
Yeah.
For their.
So the question you would ask for that is, what is it you need to function as a high performing team, whatever it is.
Yeah. You'd have your question, but obviously, you'd work with the CEO or the decision maker about what that question would be.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so any questions on the team coaching parts?
No.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you've seen this, Sarah. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, so this is a new add-on. It is in our LinkedIn group. What we did at the last workshop, because at each workshop that we do, we come up with a new tool. Amazingly. So the pie chart was the last one. This toolbox was the most recent. So we talked about, because what's important is obviously working with these colours. It's great thinking, all the reds come out and then all the purples come out, and you know what they represent.
Yeah.
But as coaches, we want to know, what would we do next? So as an exercise at the last workshop, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So we looked at things like, well, if it did come out purple, what would you as a coach then say you'd do with your clients, so we came up with lots of different things, and it was really interesting to see coaches using different things. So some people have got tools like DISC and EQI and engagement multiplier. So these are all tools, that they've subscribed to themselves. We had things like, for encouragement, the fairy tales metaphor, which I'd not come across. I mean, I've heard of the magical miracle question we've heard of as barefoot coaches, but because lots of different coaches, they come from all different types of training areas, got different takes on things. So it was quite nice to see the different ones.
That's because the scale of awfulization in fear, uncertainty, and dealing with change, that's not one that I'm familiar with barefoot, unless that's come into training.
No, these are from different people, come from different training organisations. So they might call the same thing different things. But it was quite nice sort of seeing the different elements. So that was quite. So I'm going to be expanding on this in the future, because the coaches said, well, it's quite nice to know other tools that you've not heard of. Maybe we could do a kind of a sharing type thing. So
I hate to interrupt. Sorry, guys.
Kim.
A crying colleague has just called me on the other line saying, "Help!"
Oh no!
So I will have to go.
That's okay. Well, thanks for joining us here.
No, thank you. Are you going to share the recording, Karen? Because
I'm recording it, so I'll send you a link to it.
Oh God, you are a superstar! And just to say, I am loving this. I've been awfully quiet just because I didn't want to barge in with party music in the back.
That's all right.
Thank you. This is amazing, and I will be in touch because I have a few questions that I would like to ask you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you. Nice meeting you, Sarah and Hazel. And barefooters go.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye.
Bye.